I think we've all been hearing a lot about issues around sustainability, but also now safety of wild seafood. So I was just hoping you could give us a quick bring us up to speed quickly with a little State of the Union, if you will.
Okay,
from
happy to do that. Well, on the sustainability front, there's quite a bit of good news out there. I just attended a conference here recently. The guest speaker was Andy Sharpless, the CEO of Oceana. And it was refreshingly optimistic, the state of the world's oceans. You know, we hear all the doom and gloom, and there are a lot of problems out there that need to be addressed. But he was pointing out how many fisheries around the world have rebounded once you implement strong management practices. And he cited maybe 15 or 20 different fisheries that were in a state of collapse, the ones that were setting off all the headlines, scary headlines about our oceans being depleted in 40 years, and showed that when you go in and turn the management around, that those fisheries can rebound, and many of them have. Just this morning I read that in British Columbia, the Fraser River this year is looking at the biggest salmon run they've ever had. 4 years ago, there were about 30 million. It was the biggest run in 97 years. This year, they're saying it could be double that. It's all driven by demand, right? You've got to have customers asking for sustainable seafood species. You've got to have people willing to pay for sustainable seafood. And over the last 10 years, that has increased.
We heard at dinner last night that some of the fisheries and the whole industry out in Japan has just been decimated by this radioactivity. Could you address how that affects Vital Choice and just fish in general that we get here, even from Alaska?
Sure. Obviously, being in the seafood business and selling a lot of Pacific seafood, we get this question every day. We used to get questions about methyl mercury and other kinds of contaminants. Nobody ever asks about methyl mercury anymore, which is not a problem generally. So we've learned a lot about radiation in the last 3 years since Fukushima. And you know, again, you have a lot of headlines out there that sound really scary. One that comes to mind was all Pacific tuna are contaminated with radiation. If you look at that study and you actually look down to the article, you'll see, well, the levels are so low as to not really be a health hazard. You'd have to eat 200 pounds of tuna a day to get a dangerous dose. Nevertheless, a lot of people are concerned, a lot of our customers are concerned. Testing for cesium-134, 137, strontium-91, iodine-131, and those seem to be the ones that most people are concerned about. And tests came back out of the 15 species. We had 2 minor detects that were, to put it in context, the scale that they use is becquerels per kilogram, the science. And right now the science contradicts a lot of the sort of scary headlines. I don't know. It's the first I've heard, just today is the first I've heard that the Japanese fisheries are decimated. I mean, there's so much going around the sort of internet echo chamber out there. Well, no, that map was a map that came out shortly after the earthquake, showing the elevation, showing the tsunami that radiated out across the Pacific. Somebody's taken that, sort of recast it as a radiation chart, boom, out there in blogs and, you know, all over. And
fish sources. And I appreciate being both in the media and practicing seeing patients on a regular basis, that we've all sort of bought into the notion that fish is almost synonymous with omega-3. And of course, one of the best known, studied, evidence-based, elements in the natural product world are omega-3s, second only, I think, to aspirin ever. And of course, it's been reported time and time again, heart healthy. But I think we've gotten away from eating fish, and I'm curious to know your position is on what we're perhaps missing by not having clean fish in our diet and always reaching toward the oil.
Well, I think all of us here agree that we should be getting our nutrition from food primarily, and supplements are just that, supplements. But every meal, for the first several million years of evolution of life on Earth, every meal had DHA in it. Every meal. And we came from the ocean eating seafood. And in 2004, what's happened in the last few years, the US FDA came out with a guideline for pregnant nursing women saying, don't eat these 4 species, tilefish, mackerel, big tuna, etc. And rather than pregnant nursing women avoiding those species, people interpret that as fish is contaminated, and ever since then, since 2005, seafood consumption has continued to decline in this country. But you don't get protein and all those micronutrients in a fish oil capsule. And we're from the mothers who were eating the least amount of seafood, and mothers that were eating the seafood that was equivalent, an amount equivalent to what the FDA recommends. And that the children born to the moms who ate the most seafood, who had the highest mercury levels, were actually the ones that had the best developmental outcome.
There's so many urban legends in nutrition that get out there and they just grow and grow, like this whole omega-3 dominance thing. You know, I can't tell you how many, because my son's on 20 grams of fish oil and we eat loads of fish. You know, I think people should eat fish every day. And people being so concerned about getting too much. What's too much? The Inuits, look how much they eat.
And I had a great conversation with Dr. Bill Lance, who's one of the real pioneers in the omega-3 world. He discovered a lot of the biochemistry that now drives, you know, all this. And he was talking about the therapeutic window. And he said, you know, omega-3s have, and you'll know what a therapeutic window is, right? So he said omega-3s have this huge therapeutic window. We have all these studies showing that if you just add a little bit of omega-3s to your diet, it can have a positive effect. And there's really very little evidence that you can take too many. So no matter how many omega-3s you're taking, chances are it's going to benefit you. He said omega-6s, on the other hand, very small therapeutic window. We know that several studies in the Mr. Fit trial showed that the more omega-6s you have, the higher your risk of cardiac disease, and of course all the other things. So
I know we're so concerned about getting too much omega-3.
I think the only people who are putting out that there's a concern about getting too much omega-3 are the people who are selling these mixed oils with omega-6s.
Yes,
That you really can't take
that you
a lot of.
totally
because you'll
don't
end up
need
in
at
trouble.
all, because we all get, you can't swing a rope without getting omega-6s in your
you know, an
diet.
interesting thing that's happening in the omega-3 world, the fish oil world now, is it's been around. We've been riding this wave of positive studies, positive press for about 10 years, and it's not news anymore. So people are reluctant to cover the 2,000 studies a year that come out that show positive benefit from fish oil and fish. Now what's making news are the ones that maybe are not positive. So the last year, I think there were over 60 studies.
All right. So Randy, I was talking about how my son, 19 years ago, when he was in my womb, I actually ate a ton of big fish. You know, the big ones, the halibuts and all that, and I ended up having a great deal of mercury that I was consuming. Ended up affecting my son and had allergies, severe allergies, and that's really why I became an allergy specialist due to his illnesses. And what we found was that, you know, yes, having a lot of fish, consuming it during pregnancy, that's the reason why they do not, they ask people to not have at least pregnant women, not to have the big fish. But also, I do still believe that there's so many wonderful aspects of fish, and including the small little ones like sardines. I love your sardines, and the sardines have high levels of RNA that people aren't even aware of. And RNA is really great for protein synthesis, so it helps you make more protein in your body. And then there's also, you eat the entire fish, and there's a lot of calcium for your bone building, and of course the protein itself. Yes.
Yeah, it's true that I think most seafood species are safe, that you're going to find in the grocery store. Those are going to be healthy. The mercury levels are trace, and but the fact is that the longer a fish has been around, bioaccumulating things, the higher up the food chain it is, the more it bioaccumulates methylmercury. The interesting thing is, in spite of all that we hear about methylmercury, I have yet to see a peer-reviewed study linking methylmercury in seafood, commonly available seafood, to toxicity. And you look at people in Japan, you look at people in Korea, Okinawa, Seychelles Islands, where a huge study took place, and you just are not seeing people falling over from toxicity. On the contrary, they're some of the longest living, healthiest, lowest infant mortality rates. They're the healthiest people. And I'm sure there's no question that a lot of that is what they're not eating, you know, by avoiding a Western diet to the extent that they do. But
so Randy, Andy, as a pharmacist, I'm a huge fan of the value of omega-3 fatty acids and including more fish in a person's diet to optimize heart health, to support cognitive function, brain health, great for the skin. And one of the challenges that I encounter sometimes from people is that they don't want fish, that they're concerned, yes, about possible contaminants, but also taste. And one of the things that I love about the Vital Choice products, when you open a can of tuna, it smells fresh. It doesn't have that strong odor that many canned tuna products have. The taste, the quality gives me greater confidence when I'm recommending fish for people that have always kind of stayed away from fish to try your products because of the high level of quality. As a mom, I was very keen on consuming a lot of fish during my pregnancy because I knew it was important for the brain development of my baby. And thankfully, Phoenix, my son, who's now 3.5, has always been commented to be one of the smartest kids in his playgroup.
You know, that's a fantastic point, Sherry, that we run into people all the time that say they don't like seafood. And
Or they want it battered and deep fried.
the truth is, and what's really driven our company, the success of our company for almost 12 years now, is that I was a commercial fisherman in Alaska for many years. I know good seafood. The thing is that most people don't have access, a lot of people don't have access to good seafood. See, those wonderful omega-3 fats are so vulnerable to oxidation. So people get rancid fish, or it's not prepared that well. There's a lot of farm salmon on the market, which is a whole different animal. Doesn't taste all that great. So people have had a lot of bad experiences with fish. And I find especially people that come from the Midwest, there's just not a lot of good seafood there, frankly. We travel around a lot. And so what we've sort of built our company on is just a passion for quality. Because when you get fish out of the ocean, if you've ever caught fish and you had a chance to prepare fresh fish, it's delicious. It's not fishy. It's not all dried out. And so we put quality at the top of our priority list, maybe right behind sustainability. And also, it's not cheap. We ship our products to people, and we have a 100% satisfaction guarantee, and we could never do that if it was going to taste bad. And the only way to guarantee it's going to taste good is to buy the very best fish that's out there, and so that's what we do. Our halibut, we buy only the smallest 20 pounds, and they're part of every load of fish that comes in. You have big and small fish, and all tuna that you buy on the mass market is, it's caught, frozen, sent to these packers in Asia, where it's cooked and cleaned, a lot of the healthy oils. Anyway, it's interesting. We've tried, just as an experiment, we tried processing our tuna that way just to see what the difference would be. It's more what you're used to, it's dry.
So you can get a lot of oils, and even the smaller animals in the ocean.
And the other really important thing to keep in mind, we touched on a little bit earlier, is you want to be weighing the benefits versus the risk. And so if you're going to eat tuna and you go buy store-bought tuna that has almost no omega-3s, yet it does have those trace levels of mercury, well, the risk-benefit ratio isn't that great. If you pay more, get a really good quality tuna, you're getting lots of benefit. Not only the omega-3s, but all the...
So, Randy, appreciating that, I think everyone on this panel here definitely agrees on the same page that good health is good nutrition. Starts there at the level of nutrition. And we all achieve and try to strive toward a higher omega-3 saturation in our body. We know that's good brain health, good heart health. But I think a lot of us, even as opinion leaders as well as consumers, have lost touch with the idea of what it means to supplement. Supplementation and this whole industry was designed to get beyond a good diet. And so starting with a good diet means starting with good, clean, healthy fish, right?
That's right.
And leave us off with this, where do we get this good, clean, healthy fish? How do we get your seafood onto our dinner plates 2 to 3 times a week?
That's really easy. You just go to vitalchoice.com, our website, and you can order our salmon, our halibut, all of our species that are all sourced with the same high standards of sustainability and purity. Everything's 100% satisfaction guaranteed, and we have a fantastic customer service team 24/7. You can call us up, we'll answer questions about anything. And we're also very interested in education, so there's a lot of educational stuff there too, because people have so many questions about seafood.
But the bottom line is, once you try yours, you can't ever eat the others. But
Yes, that's maybe, we've been in business almost 12 years, as I said, and we've grown every year. And I think, people try it, they're surprised by it, and they
You're welcome.
love it.